I didn't do anything to deserve this freedom or to deserve this lifestyle that I get to appreciate. Because if I was lucky, or if I was so unlucky to be born on the wrong country, okay, I want to make a reaction video on the latest Millennial Legends video vlog. Cristine here has seen it already. Jason on the Flipside Podcast has seen it already. I thought we were going to watch it on one of the episodes, but apparently they both watched it already as soon as it came out. So this is me first time watching it, and then I think we'll talk about our reactions to the video on another episode of the podcast. I'll probably link it down below, but first, let's watch it.
In proud remembrance of the achievements of her sons and in humble tribute to the sacrifices, this memorial has been erected by the United States of America. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Millennial Legends YouTube channel.
All right. Quick background. Jason turned me on to these guys, and then soon after, following, binge watching their vlogs, 1 or 2 weeks later, next thing you know, I'm finding out from Jason that they're actually on their way to Malaysia, and then they're going to be passing Metro Manila on their way back home to Bohol. And on that one, or they're going to be, they were in Manila for 2 or 3 days, but on that one day out of those 2 or 3 days, the last day that they were here, they passed by BGC, and that's where we met up. And yeah, so I think on this video, we were here. I was behind the scenes. I don't think I'm part of this video necessarily. They were doing their thing, and then we were kind of just tagging along.
My name's Dagan. I'm a 36-year-old American millennial who decided to leave everything behind and move here to the Philippines. And you know what? It's been the best decision I've ever made. Today's episode is a little bit different. Today's episode is a heavy, deep, emotional, and historical one that I'm actually really excited to talk to you about. Recently on our trip to Manila, we decided to take a visit to the American World War II Cemetery and Memorial.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. A little more background. So obviously that part that he's shooting over there is shot in Bohol already. So they were back home when he shot this, where he's shooting this particular spiel. Obviously, we weren't there. And then they just shot the parts in BGC that we were tagging along. So I'm watching this in terms of sort of shooting, making the video, and not necessarily, maybe a little bit. I think we'll talk more about the content of the video, about the cemetery and that kind of thing. But I'd like to react to this more of as a filmmaker, as a vlogger, as someone that makes videos also, and to sort of, see how somebody else, and this is really what was so nice about being able to tag along was, I got to see somebody else work and see how he put everything together. And that's what I'm watching here now.
Oracle one that I'm actually really excited to talk to you about. Recently on our trip to Manila, we decided to take a visit to the American World War II Cemetery and Memorial for both Americans who lost their lives and the Filipino scouts and soldiers who lost their lives during the battles of World War II here in the Philippines. A quick intro so that you understand my background. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I served 6 years in the U.S. Navy on board the Abraham Lincoln, an aircraft carrier. On its first deployment, the Abraham Lincoln conducted operations in Operation Fiery Vigil, which was to save thousands, tens of thousands of Filipinos from a massive volcano that erupted in the 80s. But where we're at right now is on the island of Bohol. We're near the town of Guindalman in the barangay of Ginecot. This is a really historical area for a lot of reasons. Number one, the water you see behind me, the Bohol Sea, is the area of water in which the Japanese fleet transited before the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Now, for a quick history lesson so that you guys understand my background and where I'm coming from, during my time in the military, I obtained a degree in world history studying in wartime studies. And some of the stuff that I learned about this area in particular will blow people's minds. We're not going to get into a lot of it, but I just want to get enough so that you guys have a clear understanding and a personal, emotional connection with this episode and what we're talking about today. In this river mouth here and the two river mouths just south of here and behind these very mangrove trees to my left here, the American PT boat squadrons, or the fast attack PT boat squadrons, launched their surprise sneak attacks on the Japanese fleet as they were transiting right behind me, as you can see right here. And they literally drove them into this tight area around Bohol between Leyte, Samar, and the open ocean. They had no options. They had no choice. They had no deep draft water in which they could conduct this operation or the movement of their entire fleet. And when they got around the corner here, after the PT boat attack that came from this very area right here, the entire U.S. battleship fleet that was remaining was waiting for them in ambush in the Leyte Gulf. Truly an amazing piece of history, and truly an amazing piece of historical dedication and sacrifice by those men who were willing to give the ultimate sacrifice of their own lives and bodies and soul to the betterment of the humanity and the betterment of the people of the Philippines and the people of the United States and the people of the world.
On the day that I got to meet Dagan, you could really get a sense that he's really into, world history, American Philippine history. And I really appreciated that about him, in a sense that, he was really appreciative of the history.
The humanity and the betterment of the people of the Philippines and the people of the United States and the people of the world. So in today's episode, my friends Noel and his beautiful queen Cristine, who live in the northern provinces just about an hour outside of Manila, decided to come with us and film and vlog a day in the BGC area of what is known as BGC Uptown area, just north of Manila. All right, so
nice of them to mention.
Emotional, controversial moment. We're pulling up here to the cemetery. We're actually in the cemetery now. There actually is no professional photography, commercial photography, or vlogging allowed in here, which I completely respect and understand. So we will do what we can.
Yeah, probably make my own behind the scenes vlog type of video about this day. But before we went to this part, before we went to the cemetery, we met up at I don't remember the name of the mall, the one that has a gondola. So I think he has another video about that. He may or may not release it. I'm not sure, but I think he released like a couple of shorts on it already. But yeah, so we met up first at that mall, and then we said, okay, you're going to the cemetery. We got the motorcycle, and we'll just meet you there. That's why they decided to take a taxi to get there. It's pretty near, but yeah, they decided to take a taxi to go inside. So it's his first time to go in, and it's my first time to go in also. And the reason why I wanted to interrupt this segment was when we went in, the guard was also asking us if it's our first time, we need to read through all these instructions. And one of those instructions, as Dagan was just saying, is that you're not allowed really to take, photography or basically you're not allowed to vlog inside the cemetery, out of respect for the space.
And show you what we can. But yeah, I have my own reasons for being here. So never forget where you came from, and never forget why you're here, or how it is that you are in the land of the free that you're in.
Come to think of it, hopefully we're not like breaking any rules for taking a few photos. We didn't take shots of, well, what we thought were sensitive areas, but we'll see. So humbling moments for us. Out of respect and accordance with the rules and laws of that area, you're not supposed to commercially vlog, video, or film while you're in there. So the only times that we were able to film were during brief moments while we were with a park ranger, or while we were with officials, and while we were on official tours or talking with the official guides. So please understand that there isn't a lot of footage there, and that again is why I'm doing this voiceover testimonial, so that you guys can get an emotional understanding and a grasp on how heavy this experience was for me. I think what he's also saying about that is that we weren't really allowed to, like, vlog basically and explain everything in front of the camera while we were there. We weren't supposed to. And I don't think it's necessarily about like taking photography per se, and because it's a nice place, it's not that you're not allowed to take videos, but it's more like it's not because once you take videos or once you start talking to the camera and you're like, hey, welcome to the cemetery, it doesn't come across right. So we wanted to be respectful of the space, although we were taking videos, and like what he was saying, there were park rangers, and I don't know if you could call them guards, but there was bantay. There were people there that would see us, and they would tell us if it's allowed or not allowed. I mean, they would know the rules and regulations. So we didn't. We wanted to make sure that so it's not really, what I'm saying is, it's not really about not taking videos, but it's more, I think, about acting appropriately. You don't want to be acting like you're having a party. You're supposed to conduct yourself a certain way and not be noisy, basically.
When it mattered, we came together. People have no idea. It's just so much easier to forget. We were at a point after Pearl Harbor where 14-year-olds were lying to go to war just to defend our honor. We have all lost our way. In today's world, there is a lot of hypocrisy going on, and there's a lot of instability and restlessness amongst most cultures and most people. Specifically speaking, right now, I'm in the Philippines, and I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. So we're going to just touch on that subject for a brief second. Right now in the South China Sea and the South Sulu Sea and out in the open ocean here surrounding the Philippines, there is a lot of conflict and a lot of things going on. And if you were to actually take a deep dive on Google Earth right now and see the massive military bases that the Chinese are building on what should be Philippine islands here in the South China Sea and in the Philippine Sea, it would really humble you. Now, I've done a couple of podcasts, which I'll put in the links below, where you can actually watch us Google and zoom in on some of these locations. And it is truly mind-boggling to see what China is really putting out and what they're doing against the people of the Philippines. Now, to speak about the hypocrisies of what's going on in today's world, right now, currently going on as we speak in Manila, there are protests against the U.S. military being part of the Philippines and the U.S. military and the Philippine military collaborating together. And for me, as a military veteran, as a historian, and as someone who loves the Philippines and now lives in the Philippines, I don't understand why. I'm sure that some people could say, we just want to be at peace, we don't want to be a part of war. But you have to understand what a deterrent is. If you didn't have the deterrent of the U.S. military and the Philippine military here to protect you and to protect the claims of the Philippine people and your land and your culture, you would already be Chinese.
Sorry, before he goes on with that, as we speak, or as I'm also making this reaction video, just yesterday, not even a couple of days, not even 48 hours, I think just yesterday, all over the news today that their Chinese vessels were water cannoning, damaging Philippine vessels in that area that he was talking about.
If it wasn't for the heroic sacrifices of the Filipino and American men here in World War II, you wouldn't even be Filipino. You would be Japanese. We would be sitting in Japan right now. These would be the island nations of Japan. And that itself is a very humbling realization. And I really hope that people stop, try not to argue about things they don't understand, and just take a deep breath and go look up some history. Please, because there is a lot of hypocrisy right now. To be against the military collaborations that the U.S. and British and Canadian allies and Australian allies are doing here with the Philippine military, it's a beautiful thing to see, because you don't have a large enough military as a Philippine country here to actually protect yourselves. And I know that everyone just wants to shake hands, give hugs, and be at peace, but the world doesn't work that way. And power demands respect, and respect demands a much more strong gesture of, don't mess with us, don't tread on me.
I have a few thoughts about that. It's not really concrete yet, but I'll reserve it for the podcast when I talk to Jason about it. Right now, I'm kind of still just looking at this as, logistics and how he put the footage together as a filmmaker.
And so I think it's a really good thing that the military is here, once again, collaborating, training, and working as a coalition force with the Philippine military. I've been to Arlington, which is the Arlington Memorial Cemetery, which is the national cemetery in Washington, D.C., which honors most of the most famous war heroes and veterans of the Americas. And I will tell you that the American World War II Memorial and Cemetery in BGC was so much more emotionally connected and deep and real for me, because this was a real battleground. This right here behind me, men died. Men died right here on these cliffs. There were battles down the street there. There was a battle right over there on the edge of the cliffs behind me. And there was a massive battle, 2 massive battles right here in the open water behind me. My friend Noel and his lady Cristine, who is a fellow podcaster and streamer and YouTuber, which I will put his link in the description below as well, had never been there before. And I think it was a really amazing perspective to have a Filipino local with his woman who
I didn't know that he was taking a video of me on this one, or I might have, doesn't matter. But it was funny when he says that I've never been there. That's right. I've never been to BGC, but I have actually been to Arlington Cemetery. And I see what he means about the feeling being a little different if you compare the 2 cemeteries together.
don't really have a lot of history lessons on those things and only know what they've been told or only know what they were taught in school, which wasn't much. To see them read about it, learn about it, walk through this place, read all the history, see all the war maps and all the memorials and all the breakdown war maps on the walls that really show you what happened. And then to walk the halls of those who would never returned home, of the hundreds of thousands of men and women who are buried in the oceans here in sunken ships or disappeared in the jungles during bombing raids or blasts or Japanese ambushes.
Yeah, wait, not to discredit, our history lessons, but I think what he's saying, and I might have said it in person, which is probably what he's saying, that we did discuss something like this on history lesson, but basically Philippine history was like basically we won. It wasn't detailed down to explaining what the battles were like and what actually happened. It was just a very general sort of glazed over version of the battles and Philippine history, but in such a way that, and maybe this is part of the podcast for the episode later, it was discussed in my class, at least it was discussed in such a way that it wasn't deep enough that you would actually appreciate the history, that you would appreciate what our forefathers went through, both Filipino and American and whatever nationality it is that we're talking about. But I don't know. What about you? If you're Filipino, what was your Philippine history like? How did it sort of affect you? Do you think it was enough for us to appreciate and is Dagan looking at this a certain angle, that is it too much, or I mean is it I was just wondering what you thought, what you think also as a Filipino, if you're watching this, and to look back at your own history of the Philippines and what kind of appreciation we actually have about it.
It was really truly a humbling and beautiful experience for someone like me who's an American veteran, who's a World War II history buff, who's actually studied these things. I was brought to my knees on multiple occasions. It was such a deep, intimate experience for me. I was brought to tears, I think 3 or 4 times throughout the whole thing. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot wait to go back and give more honor and pay homage to those who've made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, if he doesn't mention it, I don't want to forget. The American Filipino Cemetery in BGC has a little museum also. So I don't know if he's talking about that per se, but yeah, you do feel a sense of history and appreciation for what happened. And it's not just a regular old cemetery. There's a bit of history that's really connected to it, and you can really feel that in that space. Funny though, on a little tangent, this is actually the first time that I went to the cemetery to appreciate the cemetery. But come to think of it, back in 2001, I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I'm sure that it was the BGC cemetery. I just had to enter through a different gate. We shot a commercial there, I remember. Yeah, but it was not to show. It was still, we shot it in a part of the cemetery that there was no, any signs that that it was shot in a cemetery, and number 2, that it was not. I think they even green screened or Photoshop edited out the parts that we were showing, because there's no escape to it. That we had to show a little bit of the skyscrapers in the background. So the final commercial that came out, it was just a field and like a family running, and basically it was an ad, a real estate ad. So technically, that was the first time that I was there, but under the pretense or under the context that we were shooting a commercial. I was production assistant for a local production company. So we were shooting a commercial that was back in 2001 or 2000, even 2001, I think. And then this was the first time that I'm at the BGC cemetery, appreciating the cemetery itself.
There are only a few names on those walls that have actually, where bodies have actually been recovered. 99% of those names on those walls and at that memorial and at that cemetery never came home, and their bodies were never recovered. After about 2 hours of touring this cemetery, it was time to go and it was time to close. But not before they held a tap ceremony. Now, taps is something that they do both at funerals and ceremonies, and also on military bases or military compounds of any type. It's where we say goodbye to the day, we close out, we change the watch, we bring down the flags for the day. It is a very, very special ceremony to veterans like myself, and I was so humbled and so honored to be able to attend the tap ceremony, especially being literally the only one left in the park. I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And I will give huge props to the park rangers there at the cemetery. They did an amazing job. I'll roll that footage right now and I'll let you just watch it. And I want you guys to honestly, from the bottom of my heart, embrace this moment. Please watch this moment all the way through and do not skip any bit of it. Take a moment of silence and realize and remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom and privileges that you have now. And as this flag comes down and as this bugle stops playing, please give thanks and say a prayer to the souls buried in the ocean beneath me here, right behind me and all around the Philippines, because without them, you wouldn't be here. And without them, those people that are protesting in Manila right now against the U.S. military, they wouldn't even have the ability or the privilege to protest if it wasn't for the men and women, our brothers and sisters, both Filipino and American, that made the ultimate sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, we just had a very emotional hour walkthrough.
Yeah, wait, before he goes on with that, that was amazing, actually. I don't think we planned to be there. We didn't know that there was going to be that kind of ceremony. And for the both of us, both as Filipino and, Dagan being a veteran, both of us, I don't think any of us planned that part. But, it was just so emotional that basically that they would do it whether there's people there to watch or not. And I think it reminds me a lot about the changing of the guards in in the US, where they have something sort of similar to that, where they would do it rain or shine kind of thing. And this one, I appreciated that they did something like this, whether as a Filipino or as an American. I appreciate anyone that would honor a tradition like this and honor the sacrifices of our brothers and sisters, American or Filipino, doesn't matter what kind of nationality you are. Basically honoring that kind of tradition. That was really, I think, the word with Dagan and everything that happened. It was very nakakahawa. What's the word in Tagalog? It was what's the word? It starts with the letter C.
This absolutely gorgeous, humbling, beautiful, magnanimous cemetery and memorial for both Filipino and Americans, all who died in the name of freedom during World War II. This was
there was a gardener around this area, by the way, when he was shooting this video. So I mean, if it was not allowed, they would have told us. But what's that word that I'm thinking of when you were contagious? Yeah, very contagious. Like his appreciation for history is very contagious. And I don't know how it comes across when he's saying stuff like, if it wasn't for these people's sacrifices, you wouldn't be, you'd be Japanese right now. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily condescending. I don't want to necessarily want to take offense to it just yet. We'll discuss it on the podcast, like I said. But for me, my initial reaction to that is just basically it is what it is. It is just matter of fact. And I could, but I don't think I should take any offense to it.
Wow, this was heavy. I'm gonna proudly go out there and admit that I have already cried 3 times. Every tear was well deserved here. What they've done here and what they've built here, like, in my opinion, every single student, every single child in the world needs to be thrown on a bus and march into a place like this and reminded of why they have the luxuries they have today. To those engineers and craftsmen that built this place, both American and Filipino, bravo.
Yeah, but I agree with him. How I don't know, maybe it's changed, but when we were growing up, elementary school, Philippine history, we didn't have any this kind of immersion or this kind of appreciation for Philippine history. And yeah, it would have been nice, if we were kids that, and a lot of it is like up to you and your family. If you want to take your family out to see historical sites, maybe whether it's the school's fault, there's no budget, whatever it might have been, whose fault it is not, is immaterial. What I'm just saying, basically just saying that we weren't exposed to this kind of thing as much as we could have been. That's not necessarily to compare it to other countries, but what I'm saying is I think, as kids, it would have been nice to have an appreciation, to be exposed to it. You can't really force down appreciation on somebody's throat, but just the idea of being immersed to it, I think would have been nice as a kid.
And as we walk down these marble steps, I am just blown away by the beauty and the surrealness of this place. And then just to contrast it, the gentrification and industrialization of Uptown. It's a lot. I just got to witness taps, and they did a beautiful job at the taps. I broke. So most people, unless you're in the military, probably won't understand that or understand why I broke. But to those veterans around the world, both, of all countries and nations, that was a very well done tap ceremony, especially to be done by civilians. I'm very impressed. They really did.
Yeah, even as a Filipino, I was really, really appreciative of, the civilians, the Filipinos that were doing it. And it was nice it was cool to see Dagan break down also. That, like I said, that was really nakakahawa. That's, gosh, what's the word again? It was contagious to feel it. And again, I'm not a veteran, I'm not any part military, but just a human, just as a Filipino that has a little bit of, historical ties to the land, to the motherland. You get an appreciation for it, and that's what I mean. It's like you don't really have to be. It doesn't have to be shoved down your throat to appreciate the history, but just to see someone do it, I think is basically plants a seed enough for you to appreciate what's going on, and the history that transpired and where we are now is basically, I think, what Dagan is also saying, to appreciate where we are now.
I love you.
I love you too.
This is them walking back already. So we met up at the mall, the mall that has that gondola, and then we went to the cemetery. They did their thing. I watched them do their thing, and with a motorcycle. So we were parked up at the museum. Since they were walking back, which is what they're doing in this footage here right now, we were already at the main gate waiting for them to come back. And at the main gate, we were seeing them, we were watching them walk back to the main gate doing this spiel right here.
I just got to get out of here before I start crying again.
Aw, let it go. You'll feel better. Let those tears roll.
But the tears I have today aren't the tears for me. It's the tears for them.
You still feel better.
Tears of thanks and appreciation. It really is a beautiful place.
Yeah, I feel that, as a Filipino, whether you're a American or a Filipino soldier, I appreciate what you've done because, basically with that appreciation, I feel like I didn't do anything to deserve this freedom or to deserve this this lifestyle that I get to appreciate. Because if I was lucky or if I was so unlucky to be born on the wrong country, I would have different rights or the whole the whole freedom of speech, that kind of thing would be totally different. And we're not all equally lucky. And, little that I know about Philippine history feels a lot like I dodged the bullet.
If you get a chance to come to Manila, no matter where you're from and no matter who you are, you need to come here. Until next time, legends. See you soon.
Yeah, cool of Dagan to make a video like that because, like I said, I didn't even know that this location existed. It's just right there. It's right under our noses. So if you do have time, I think entrance is free, but don't be going in there shooting your vlog. It might be disrespectful and it might be against the rules. Don't. But go there to appreciate. If you're going to shoot the vlog, shoot it outside on your way in. Do your thing in and then come outside. I think this is what I'm going to do. I'll go back there and then make my own reflection outside and not be shooting any spiels inside the cemetery like Dagan did. But yeah, that's my little reaction to it. We'll talk about it on the episode tonight, actually, with Jason, the flip side with Jason and Noel. I should be able to link that episode at the bottom of, on the description or somewhere at the bottom of this video, on this video somewhere. But yeah, I guess that's my little reaction to it. The fact that, he put a little more context and explained his appreciation for the space, for the cemetery, on a different location when he was back home in Bohol. And I just wanted to see that how did he decided to edit and put together the vlog. And that's what I learned about it. I don't think I would have had the appreciation for it if he didn't do that sit down by the beach kind of explanation for it. So that was cool of him to be able to do that. So that's just, I think, one of 3 or 4 videos that the Millennial Legends shot on that day. Again, we were at the mall with a gondola. We went to the cemetery after that. And then after that, we walked around BGC and looked for this carinderia hidden around BGC. So if you get the chance to watch the Millennial Legends channel, check it out and check out those different videos around that area. Okay. Thanks for watching.